Morning, everyone. This is Anna Wiles, the franchise economist, and your host for today's Franchise Minute. We're going to listen to a video on the topic of when is the best time to own a franchise. And then I'm going to ask you to put your questions in the chat box, and I'll answer them live for 15 minutes afterwards. So here's the video. When is the right time to own a franchise? Many people take the state of the economy into account. The single most important thing you can do is to make sure that you're ready from a financial standpoint to start and grow a business. Anna's rule of thumb is to have $100,000 of your own money available to start a business. Most people get that money from their savings, their stock market investments, equity in their home, and rolling over retirement fund monies, which they can use without tax or penalty to start a business. Please visit my website, howtoselectfranchises.com. Look under the resources section, and there is some really great information about how to fund a franchise. Now, for questions having to do with this topic, just jot them down in the chat box, and I'll answer them live now during our 15-minute Q&A session. Thanks for joining. Hello, Mohammed. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, good to see you.
No, I appreciate it very much.
Yes, I'm going to check the chat box. I don't see any particular. Did you have a particular question that you had about?
No, just exploring for, very initial stage, nothing specific to.
Just here to learn.
Yeah, you have to learn. Yeah, you have to open your mind.
All right, absolutely. It's important to have an open mind and to make a well-educated decision about, franchises. So that's what I'm here to do, is to help people get the information that they need to decide for themselves if a franchise is the right way to make a business investment. So today's topic is, when is the right time? And as the video said, the right time is when people are talking about the economy, right? Inflation and the interest rate and who's in the White House and politics and all that sort of stuff. What I say is focus on your own personal economy. What is your financial situation? When it is sound, that's the right time. And my kind of rule of thumb for what's sound, Mohammed, is one, that you have, of course, a good credit score and your credit report's all cleaned up. Then secondly, that you have $100,000 of non-financed money of your own to put towards a franchise. And a lot of people think that's a lot of money, and it is. But the thing is, if you get a loan, you're going to have some of your own money, some skin in the game if you go the SBA route. So typically they want like 25 to 30% down. So if you're making a $300,000 total investment in a business, you're going to need to put $100,000 of your own money in there. And that can include the franchise fee. And of course, you need money for working capital reserve. That's very, very important. It's easy to get into business. The harder part is staying in business, right? Until the business can break even and throw off, positive cash flow. And the common ways to get that $100,000, smart investors don't have that kind of money just sitting around not working for them. So aside from maybe a money market account or a savings account, people look to liquidate some stocks that they have invested in the stock market. They also typically have a good bit of equity in their home, so they establish a home equity line of credit. And then the fourth way that people get funding, their own funding, equity funding for a franchise, is to use qualified retirement fund dollars that they can roll over into a business that they own, and they can do this without tax or penalty. Many people do not realize that. And on my website, under the resources tab, is some very good information about funding franchises in this particular process, and 4 different companies, franchise funding companies, that provide that rollover program is called ROBS, Rollover for Business Startup. So I highly recommend that to everyone. Any other questions that people have? Now, of course, $100,000 isn't the total investment, right? Things that are very misleading on the internet are this: franchise, $20,000. People, that is just the franchise fee. That is not the total cost of getting into and staying in a business. It's so misleading. And so if this is the one takeaway you have from today's Franchise Minute, just know what you want to find out is what is the total investment, the franchise fee, working capital reserve. If it's a physical location like brick and mortar, a store location, you're going to have to, have build out, construction costs, right? Equipment, maybe inventory. You're going to have to hire people to run the location for you, payroll, utilities, sign a long-term lease, etc. So saying $20,000, get a franchise for $20,000, you're getting a license of that franchise and use their business model, but you're going to still have to come up with the total investment, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, so I hope that's very clear. Any other questions? Thank you, Ashley, for joining us. There are some comments. How much does a franchise fee cost? Good question from Hannah. There are only about 4,500 franchises to choose from in America. So the franchise fees are going to vary. The lowest one I ever saw was like $250. And I'm going to say, what are you getting for $250? Nothing. Just what value is there in that? I don't care if a franchise fee is as high as $50,000 or $60,000. I've seen that as well. But what are you getting in return for that? Marketing expertise, technology, systems, processes, training, support, proven business model, proven marketing strategy. You know what I mean? What are you getting in return for that? So judging a franchise by, how much their franchise fee is, what some people use to gauge the value of a franchise. But like our mothers taught us, don't judge a book by its cover. You're going to need to ask questions and dig deep and find out what does that cover. Okay, so it's a wide range of what the franchise fee is, but that's just usually a tiny overall cost of getting into launching and growing your own business. All right, let's see if there are any other questions in the chat box. How much money does a franchise cost? I get that question a lot. And again, because there are 4,500 different franchises, the range is going to be huge. There are home-based businesses that are going to be service businesses. Obviously customers aren't coming to your home. I call those mobile businesses. So businesses that can be run from home means you go to your customer. You're providing some sort of service at their residence or place of business. Okay, so you or your business is going to them. So there's not the overhead of brick and mortar or an office. So that can be as low as like around $100,000. But remember, you're thinking $100,000 for a home-based business? Well, yes, but that's the franchise fee. You're going to have marketing costs. You're going to have working capital reserve. You've got to get clients, and they've got to, bring in enough revenue, and you've got to be paying bills, during the startup phase. So yes, I really, my rule of thumb is to make sure you have $100,000 of non-finance cash of your own money before you get into any sort of business, including a franchise. All right, there was another question. JJ asked, what is the success rate of existing franchises? Excellent question. There have been many long-term studies on franchises. I haven't read any recently. I mean, obviously we had the pandemic and certain industries just absolutely tanked, right? And whereas other industries just surged and had the best years in decades, right? So I don't know any current study, but I will tell you this. In general, what the studies have shown is that the success rate of franchising is above 90%, is above 90% success, meaning they stay in business. Now, we all know this, I mean, haven't we all heard through the SBA, what is the success rate of most small startup businesses? Is almost like reverse of that, the failure rate. And if you're talking about food or restaurants, we've all seen restaurants open and then close within a matter of months, right? So there is a way to find out if you're interested in a particular franchise. What is nice to know is that in general, franchising is a highly, highly successful business model, but you want to know the success rate of that particular franchise that you're looking at. And franchisors will provide that information to you. You'll have the opportunity to talk to all their franchisees. You'll get their contact information, all that sort of stuff. So it's available to prospective franchisees. That information is required to be shared with you. Who are their current franchisees, their contact information. Franchises provide this in writing. They provide in writing any franchisees who've left their system in the last year. And that's what you want to know, right? How many have left and then why? Because if somebody leaves, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes people retire. Sometimes people, get divorced and they close the business. Sometimes people get sick. There are just all kind of reasons why people go out of business, but you want to know is it going out of business because the business model is not sound, right? So I help people through the vetting process when they're looking at a franchise. Okay, I think we had another question that hasn't been addressed.
And I appreciate the time. I have to leave for the other meeting. I just want to let you know I will contact you later if information.
That would be great, Mohammed. It's good to see you.
Likewise, I appreciate the information though. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye. All right, we've got time for one last question. All right, Ashley asked, what industry trends am I seeing? What are the top 3 industries people are getting involved with? That is also a great question. And for years, the answer to that has been the same. Health, wellness, and beauty. That is where the absolute growth in franchising is, has been, and continues to be. Just kind of lumping all that together, we can call that, that's my alarm saying we've got to wrap it up now. Personal services, okay? Hair salons, eyelash extensions, massage, fitness centers, health, wellness, beauty. I mean, it is just exploding and continues to explode, even during the pandemic. Now, I know gyms were shut down, hair salons were shut down, but I mean, didn't everybody talk about their COVID hair? I mean, people are going to go get their hair cut, they just are, and it's a cash business. So anyway, that does very well, even in, down economic times. So that's all the time we have today. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're going to do this every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time when I'm in town. Next week, I'm going to be at a franchise conference, and I will come back bursting with information to share with you. And then the next week, I'm also hosting something called an executive roundtable. So I'll not be able to do the franchise minute, but if you want to be part of that executive roundtable, that is an hour-long presentation, a lot more information. This is just franchise minute. And in closing, I'd like to ask you to connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. And if you have any remaining questions that, of course, we couldn't discuss in this short period of time, just message me and I'm happy to answer them for you. Thank you so much, everyone. So our next Franchise Minute is going to be January 25th at 11:30. Thank you much. Bye-bye.